What's going on, guys? So just first up, I just apologize for the bad audio. I'm just using my onboard microphone in my camera, so it probably doesn't sound too great. But today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be rewiring the power to a bunch of different consoles here. And the reason for that is to sort of save space and to save a bit of heat and stuff as well. At the moment, I'm just using the original MegaDrive power supply, which is a bit different to the US one, and it can power the MegaDrive, the Famicom, and the core graphics. They're all the same voltage and the same polarity. But the problem with that is the MegaDrive's power supply is linear, and it's big, it's heavy, and it takes up 2 PowerPoint spaces, and I just don't like using it. It's just too old. I don't know, I just don't feel right using it. It doesn't feel very safe. So what I've got here is I've ordered some junk off eBay. I've ordered some new barrel jacks. They are the correct size. They fit the core graphics, the MegaDrive, and I think the 32X, maybe. And it does fit the Famicom. I'll have to look up the power requirements for the disk system. I think it's the same as the Famicom, so I could just daisy chain off that. So what I've got here is I've got those barrel jacks, and then I've got this old netbook transformer power supply. It's a switch mode power supply. I don't know if you can see that, but it is 20 volts at 2 amps, so it's 40 watts, which is way more than I need. But if I was to power all of these consoles on at the same time, I shouldn't have any problems. And then because these consoles are all 9 volt DC, this is a 20 volt DC output, I've gone ahead and bought one of these. And if you follow me on Twitter and I think Instagram, I put some photos up about this a couple weeks ago. This is a voltage regulator, pretty beefy one. It's 9 volts with a 5 amp max output. And as you can see, it's completely potted. Takes between 12 and 24 volt. This is probably something that's normally used inside a car or a truck or something. It's pretty beefy. It's got its own little heatsink. I don't think it'll get too hot, although we are stepping down 20 to 9, so it's more than a... would that be 50 or 100%? I don't know. But it's a fairly big jump. If this was 12 volts, it would be much better, because then this thing would only be dropping about 3 volts instead of about, I don't know, a few. My math's not too good. And then I just bought some standard DC appliance lead stuff from J-Car, black stuff, and some black heat shrink in this bag here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down all the polarity and everything for each of the consoles. I write that all down, and then I'll start wiring up the cable. I think I've got about 3 or 4 meters of this stuff, which should be enough, because the PowerPoint for the MegaDrive is just in there, so it's not too far. And then hopefully I'll be back in a little bit. Okie dokie, so I've just done a bit of research, and I just checked on my power supply as well, and it turns out the MegaDrive is actually sensitive negative, which is weird. And then I did some more research, and I found out that nearly everything is. I always thought that was sensitive positive. Now the 32X, I believe it uses a different plug, and I think I bought one for it. I'll just have to find it. But all the rest look like they take the same size barrel plug. It's sort of that standard 0.5 or something. 5 mil or something, I don't know. I'll put it in the description which ones you need. So I'm going to start soldering this all up, and I'll see you back in a little bit. Oh, and I also checked the power supply, see if it was working first, and it does, which is handy. Okay, so it's the next day now, and I have completed the wire, and it seems to be working fine so far. This power adapter, I actually swapped it out for an IBM one. Mainly just because I already had it laying around. It wasn't being used. I don't have this laptop anymore. I just pinched the charger from it, and it is a, what is that, 16 volts at 4.5 amps, so it's about a roughly about a 65 watt power supply. It wouldn't be completely efficient, so that's more than what I had before. The other one was about 40, and I was running it before for about an hour with all these systems running, with the core graphics, the Famicom, the disk system, and I was just resetting it every now and again to just get the drive to load up and use a bit more power. And the MegaDrive with the 32X. Now, yeah, it seems to be working fine. I think I broke my 32X though. There's something weird going on with it. The colors are all weird and stuff, so that might need a new, need some new capacitors. Something I've never touched the board in this. All I ever did to it was just add composite output to it. And well, this system stops loading. Cool. Now, what I did with the cables is, see if I can get this a bit nicer looking for you. Okay, so what I've done with the cables is, so it comes out of this 16 volt transformer here, and it's all switching and everything, so, and then that runs into this guy here, and all this is, I've just patched that into it with the positive and ground and whatever. Put some nice neat black heat shrink over it. It's double insulated, I think. No, this side isn't double insulated. It's fine though. And then I've got this dude here, as you saw before. That is a 5 amp 9 volt regulator. And another reason why this was better, because this is going from 16 down to 9, which is a bit lower jump, so this should not get as thrashed as it would have with the other one. And then it comes down here and it comes out to this little contraption here. And you can't really see much, but this is just a whole behemoth of wires. These are double insulated, which means that both the positive and negative are insulated with the outside as well. Whereas this one, just the positive had heat shrink on it, and this outer heat shrink just covers the negative on this end, which is good enough. And then that just splits off into 3 separate wires, and I'll just show you on here. We have the core graphics. Sorry, core graphics. Scratched up there. And what I did with the connectors, put a little label in there with the center tip negative. So it turns out they're all negative except for the 32X, and the voltage and just the name of the system, just so it's easier to recognize, with some clear heat shrink over it. Some of these I'll show you in a sec with the Famicom. I think that's the best example. It was a bit hard to fit 2 sets of wire into the plugs, and you'll see why in a minute. Actually, this power supply, I left it running for about an hour, and it only gets like warm. It gets sort of lukewarm, probably about 25-30 degrees, so nice and warm. The Famicom probably gets hotter than that because it has a crappy old 7805 linear voltage regulator, which probably needs a bit more cooling, because I did remove half of the RF shielding, which it used to sink the heat to, so it runs fine. I don't delay it that much anyway. And then, so here we have the FDS Famicom disk system, 9 volts. I couldn't really fit the picture in there, but it's the same as the Famicom anyway. So there. And this one I spent probably half an hour trying to squeeze these wires through this little end cap here. Okay, I'll just fix that exposure up there. It's very better. Yeah, I spent about half an hour or whatever trying to fit this through here, and it just barely reached. So I put some heat shrink over it, and that's when I got the idea just to heat shrink the labels on them anyway. And they're all standard plugs. And I did end up finding the correct plug. I already bought it. The correct plug for the 32X. And this is what I mean why I just gave up before on trying to fit the wires through on this one, because this was the last one I did. And yeah, as you can see, I just sort of insulated it. It's double insulated as well. I think it is. No, it's only single insulated. I just insulated the center one. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, It doesn't look too bad. It's very sturdy. And then it goes up to this one, and I might redo this little label and put it on the plug like the rest, but it's sort of easy to see, and as you can see, center tip positive because it is a different connector. Nonetheless, still pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mess around with putting this in, if I can get it back in there. I might have to pull out the Xbox One to get it all to fit. Okay, if you were wondering how complicated it is with all the wiring and everything in here, now granted I'm going to be ripping this all out in probably a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, and completely rewiring it because I am upgrading to RGB. I don't know if I'll upload this other video first or this one, but if I upload this one first, here's a bit of a sneak peek at why I'm doing that. But yeah, so it's not pretty, and I don't know if you'll even be able to see that, but it looks worse in person actually. Yeah, but most of this is all just like, it's all like the rear channels for this receiver, AV cables, and networking cables. All the rest, like this whole section of the room, from there, except for the sub, from there all the way up here, this is all on one single point, power point. Now you're probably thinking, oh no, Fireman Sam said that was bad, but look at it this way. I'm not drawing constant current from all 24 or 25 outlets. The server does not get turned off, it runs 24/7. But at most, I'm ever only really running one system. Sometimes I'll run two if my girlfriend's playing the Xbox One and I want to play something else like the 360 or something, play some Halo. But other than that, you're only ever really running one system at a time, so you're putting a max load of probably, I'd say probably about 600 watts on that whole loom. And the way I've wired it up is, they're not exactly daisy chained with the power boards. So I've got one power board way up here and it's got 6 other power boards plugged into it. And I think there's one extra I just tacked onto the start. So all the, bar one power board, which is only running 5-volt transformers just for the little stuff, it's all running through one 24 kilowatt, no not 24, 2.4 kilowatt breaker. So all these boards have overcurrent protection built in. No surge protection, because that's pretty much useless. They're all running through one 2.4 kilowatt breaker, which means that maximum I'll ever be able to pull off anything in here is actually what the wall's rated for, and the wall's rated for 10 amps, so 10 times 240, yeah, 2.4 kilowatts. I think they're actually rated a little bit higher, but I think as a margin of error they rate them all at 2.4. That's just a standard 10 amp outlet domestic. You can get 15, 20, and then you go up to I think it's 3-phase power or whatever, where it goes up to like 400 volts or something. They jump it up, but that's all industrial stuff. I don't know too much about mains wiring, but enough not to kill myself. So yeah, it's pretty messy. I went to Target the other week and they had a sale on those little wraparound cable tidies. I think they were $1 each, so I just bought every one they had in the shop, and that should be enough. I think it ended up being about 10 meters of it, and yeah, so I'll be cleaning that up. I might vlog it. Hopefully I could get it done in probably about 8 hours, I think, but it really depends. It really depends. Alright, so we'll have a look down here. This was sort of an impromptu piece of the video, and something that will make all the cable Nazis and the cable nerds upset at me. And this is the cable I made for the core graphics, because I didn't have one, didn't come with one, so I made one out of an old Xbox AV cable, because I'm only running composite at the moment. Let's try and focus that. Yeah, dodgy mate, dodgy. Yeah, I cut this bit off So I thought, oh, I won't fit through there, I'll just chop it off so I can get it in. But it turns out it would have fitted anyway. But I'm not running end-to-end shielding on this. It's technically shielded on the TV, but hey, it probably causes less noise this way. Because for some weird reason, I noticed this, and it was actually the problem I was having with my Game Capture HD2 that I blew up the input on, trying to fix it. But this TV, for some stupid reason, on HDMI just has heaps of noise. If I plug the camera into this and then record even through the camera's own microphone, you're able to hear heaps of noise even when this TV is on standby. So I don't know what's going on there. I never really noticed it before. And I don't notice it when I use just capture cards normally, but whenever I use sort of like audio equipment connected to this and then recording at the same time, I don't know, it's really weird. So, yes, this TV is probably going to go in the next year or two. It's getting too small. It's 42 inch, edge lit LED. Yeah, it's alright. It's got okay color. It just feels too small. I want to go up to probably, I think the max I could probably fit in this space here is probably 50 inch. Yeah, probably maximum. It'd be touching the outer edges here. So yeah. So what I've been doing is, you probably can't see this. It's probably really dark, but there's my server there. Hello, server. And yeah, I've been trying to plug this in, and I just had to pull out the old Sega cable. And this is one thing I don't like about Nintendo stuff, is the wires are so short. Look how short the controllers are on this Famicom. They're tangled up, but they're pretty short. Whereas this is a Sega one. Look at this. Goes for miles. Why can't everything be like this? That's so useful. Well, it wasn't useful in this case because it was tangled around everything else. I accidentally unplugged a bunch of things, but anyway, that thing weighs a ton. I don't know if this is a switching regulator or not. I don't know. Could be, could be not. I don't know, it's really freaking heavy. Anyway, so I'm going to finish doing this, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit, I guess. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so just to finish up the video, this is what it looks like, all put in together. Yeah, it turned out pretty nicely actually. It doesn't really look too bad. And I just had to make some new holes there for all the cables. Got a bit lazy and just stabbed it with a screwdriver. But just to show that they do work. There's a Famicom. And the MegaDrive. And this one doesn't have a light, but I can turn it on anyway. And there's the disk system churning away. Anyway, until next time, see ya.